Good morning, folks. Triple Crown here, coming to you from Vancouver, British Columbia. It's a Friday morning. I actually did the turn last night, but I was so tired, I just didn't have the energy to record it and upload it. So here we go. This is round 13. The Allies were successful in taking back Shanghai. So the Axis still have 13 victory cities in Berlin, Rome, Paris, Warsaw, Leningrad, Moscow, Stalingrad, Tokyo, Hong Kong, Calcutta, Singapore, Malaya, and Cairo. So the Japanese fleet is no more. The Americans finally attacked. Well, actually, the only reason the Americans were successful, and that is because the British attacked with, it was actually 38 units first. So they sacrificed themselves and they took out 18 Japanese naval units in the process, mostly submarines, and they damaged all their battleships, which meant the Japanese did not have a buffer when the Americans attacked, and it went, actually, I think it was only 3 rounds. And when you have a navy that was that large as the Americans, sort of, 90 plus units, and that is what's remaining. Fairly huge, actually, a lot bigger than I suspected. The Americans rolled quite well, and that's the surviving American Air Force. So the Americans did lose 6 carriers in the process, and all of their submarines and a couple destroyers, and damaged their battleships, but that was it. The key to the success of the Americans was also their heavy bombers and their B-29s. They rolled lights out. I think one roll, they must have scored like 10 hits just themselves, or 12. It was just phenomenal. So the B-29s and the B-17s and the B-25 saved the day. The Americans came in and did a landing in Shanghai, and the Japanese did not have a fortification there, and the Americans attacked with like 26 ground units, and the Japanese only had 13 units defending. So that was a short battle, and now the Americans and the British have to decide, do they want to take a poke at Hong Kong, Philippines, or down here in the Singapore? And they still have quite a bit of a punch left. The British Air Force that was sitting at an air base in Ceylon flew up here and landed in Chunghope, or Chunghumph, I think it's called. So they still have their Air Force left. The rest of this Navy, this is the British Navy, is sitting here in Sea Zone 86, and they took back Borneo and Brunei. And the other British and combined American Navy still sitting here in Wake Island, and there's another 10 British ground units there, another probably 6 or 7 over here. And the Americans still have another 4 ground units to land and another 2 carriers they brought across. So what are the Allies going to do? The Japanese have been pushed back pretty much just to the corner of Hong Kong and down here. The Italians did do sort of a landing here with a fighter, and an air transport brought a guy. The Germans are bringing their Air Force across. The Italians, a heavy bomber up here, because the Germans had nothing left to really accomplish. So they are heading towards Novosibirsk. The Russians saw them coming. And so the Russians have about 13 ground units, and currently the Germans only would be able to attack with about 6. So, or 7, minus their Air Force. The Germans did do an air blitz in Madras, and they were successful taking out I think it was about 10 UK ground forces that had come across from Cairo, but they did lose almost their entire Air Force in the process. So that was good probably for both sides, but that meant that definitely 100% that Calcutta is off the table. This is the German fleet that's sitting now off the coast of Madras. Some Italian transports. It's actually sitting here off the coast of Italian Somaliland and Ethiopia. The Italians did take back Ethiopia, but were unsuccessful. The British defended Italian Somaliland, so that was some good rolling for the British there. And over here, this is the German fleet that's sitting off the coast of West Germany, and that is a combined 38 units with their Air Force. So the British moved their Air Force or their Navy with the Canadians and the Russians up here because that meant the German Air Force can't partake. And because it's turned 13 and America can't really do much else in the Pacific, they built 3 battleships and a small navy with the Canadians to slowly come across, because sea line, if London was to fall, that's going to be trouble for the British. Now the British and the Canadians and the Americans, they have about 45 units there, so that is a pretty significant defense. So the Germans have a couple rounds to sort of take a poke at it if that's what they want to do. And that is the end of round 13. Stay tuned for the conclusion of playtest number 5, and thanks for watching, folks.